Everybody hear me okay? All right, I guess in the interest of time, we should just start. It's 1 o'clock. So my name is Kevin Duffy. I manage the development team at Oracle that does the Oracle Rdb product family set. I'm going to go show you in a second what comprises that product set. So I'm going to give you now an update of what we've been doing, where we're going, what our plans are, etc. Safe harbor statement means basically you can't hold me to anything I'm about to tell you. Okay, so for the agenda, I'll first talk about support dates. What are the currently published support dates? Our recent releases, then what's under development, and then I know most everybody here, what they really want to know is what are we doing with beta? When can we get the kit and all that? So I will get to the status of what is going on there. But before we do that, we are actively developing this product. I want to give you information on what we've been doing to bring new releases out. And then I just have a few slides about the cloud, but following at that point, actually I'll do the roadmap first so that I'm done with my slides, and then we are going to move into a demo of RDB on x86 running in OCI. So that I think will be a highlight to see that. So, okay, so first off, when we talk about RDB, most everybody says RDB, it's RDB the database. That's true, but we also have other products that are part of the product set. So they're listed here. And the key ones, the Rdb server, Oracle VMS for those customers that are using that. A lot of chip manufacturers around the world actually use Oracle VMS. And then these other products. So I will be going over these through the presentation. Okay, so for support, so you can see here. The most recent release of the product family is 7.4.x. And we have you can see on the line there that the premier support for 7.4 actually ends at the end of this year, so just in a few months. Then we move into extended support, and that is in place until the end of 2027. So what that means is if you have a support contract, it needs to be on an extended support footing, and that typically is just about a 20% upcharge from what the standard support costs are. So this is what is published. So we're committed to this. I'm going to be talking, in a bit about x86 and the commitment we're seeking from our management to ship that. It's going to depend on the feedback we get from the customer base about their need. Normally, what I say here is that we will, and that we've been doing for years, that we would just, as we come close to the end of the support date, like the December 2027, that we would just then put in the paperwork internally to get that extended. We've got a long history of doing that. This may be different because if we don't get the okay to go on to x86 production-wise, now we're on an obsoleted platform because HP is ending support at the end of this year. So would we get approval to extend support on a platform that's no longer supported? That's highly doubtful. So a lot of this is going to ride on the x86 question. But right now, that's what we are committed to the end of December 2027. I have the same thing in here for Oracle VMS. It follows the same support dates. Okay, so just a review of some of the things we've been doing over the past 2 years, although I've highlighted here in yellow what we've done this year. And I will go over these different versions. But just going back over the last year, last December, we put out an update kit for our 7.4.13 release, followed by another update kit. This is all driven by problems that we're receiving in the field. A customer really needs a fix, And so that's what motivates us to get a kit out. So that's what we're doing. Then everything we did with 7413 was then rolled up in the next major release of RDB of 7414. That's the most recent version that's out there today. Put out in June of this year. We put out also a 7.4 version of JDBC. And I'll give updates at the other parts that are on the slide. I don't want to labor on all the details here, but just to give you an idea of the work we've been doing. So for 7414, yeah, there was out in June. We had been working with these were two items that we had been working with customers were pretty hot items for these customers. One was seeing corruption on pages that was halting operations with their application, and we did some. This was just like a one-off with one customer. We're not seeing this across the board, across the customer base, but very important for that customer. We did some work to put some guards on pages to make sure this corruption couldn't happen, or if it did, that it wouldn't be propagated. That went into this release, and there was also actually this this ability to a bit more tools to find a blocking process that's holding the lock, that's holding up an application. That was actually done in one of the update kits I'm going to show you, but it's definitely part of what we shipped in 7414. And then there's, as always, besides any new capabilities, it's fixing problems that customers have encountered. You can see the types of problems here. Bug check on importing a database, bug check during query, view on a union, backup on line bug checks, etc. So you can read through this. There's, these are, especially if you're the one hitting these are important fixes to get out. This is a snapshot of if you're on my Oracle support, which is where we make these releases available, where the 7414 kit is. It's also it's always very helpful to have the patch number. Our release manager is Colleen Michnick. She's sitting right there, and she's the one who does all of this. She has to open a bug to get this patch number, and once you have that in MOS, it's very easy then to search on that patch number and find the kits. JDBC. So there'll be a bit of a theme here for some products where the release wasn't rich in bug fixes or features, but we needed to get a version out that was at the 7.4 version to get to that 7.4 support level, because the version before this was the 7.3 version. So we did that with JDBC in May of this year. And there were some new features in this. CDD 7410. This again was the main impetus for this, was to get a 7.4 release out. But there are features here like this improved ability to deal with SQL built-ins and aggregate functions. Actually, Colleen is also the one that is responsible for this kit. So these things were brought out to the field, but the main thing was we need to get a 7.4 version out. Trace, this was the same thing. Needed to get a 7.4 version out, but we did include fixes. This one was actually pretty important for the customers that were hitting it. There was an issue when dealing with our VLR converter where it was going into a loop. So we fixed that problem, and that came out in August of 2020. Okay. 7413, we just talked about 7414. Everything that was put in 7413 was rolled up. It's all cumulative. So with 7414, you get all of these fixes. There were some interesting things that I just highlighted here that were in this release. During the work for the port on x86, we were doing some work with VLM, very large memory, and the engineer, actually Mark Noel, who was here at this conference, look, as he was porting the code, he was like, look, dealing with system space buffer, it's a case where we were not releasing the memory on a close, and that was causing a memory leak. Then we looked back and we're saying, we did receive a bunch of problems. This could have been the cause for it. So we made that fix and included that here. So again, that's all wrapped up in 7.4 report as well. And also there was an issue with RMU convert commit. That was urgent fix. But then as soon as we shipped that, other things came in and we did the update kit. So this was the December kit of last year. Unexpected bug check on Army shows statistics when using row cache. And then in February, we came out with another. This is where the lock ID feature really came in. We had a customer that was urgently waiting for this because they had this application, as I mentioned, that it was blocking stalling. It was happening on a regular basis. They needed the tools to just go in and say, I need to find that blocking process, kill it, and then keep the application forward. So we released that update kit. Codicil DVMS. So this is the most recent version that's out there now for June of 2024. And what happens with Codicil DVMS, it shares the same kernel as RDB. So any kernel changes we make in RDB, those can all be applied to DVMS and bring that forward. So this was a case here. I've already talked about the system space buffers not being freed up. That also then affected DVMS, and that was rolled up and put in. And this is where you can find DVMS on MOS. Okay, RDB 7340, July of 2023. So this is going back quite a bit. And the reason I have this up there is that not everybody has upgraded to our latest version 7.4, even though you still have support on 7.3. You get sustained support. So if you have a problem, you call into Oracle support, they will help you fix the problem. But we're not giving any patches. We haven't been since this release. But I'm just putting this up there as a reminder. If anybody's at the 7.3 level, you really should be up to date to this version as you're going forward until you are able to upgrade. So, okay, so that's what we've done, I'll say, over the last 2 years. And by the way, the other huge thing is that we've been working on before. So we will be talking about that, but that's really what really was taking up most of the cycles of the group. Okay, so what are we working on now as far as new releases that will go on? We're still shipping on alpha because we have a fair number of customers that run an emulation with AVTware or Stromisys primarily, and obviously we're working on the beta work as well. But so we have 7.415 versions of both RDB and Codicil DVMS that are coming out. We're going into code freeze for that quite soon in the next number of weeks. We'll expect to have these out before the end of the year. SQL Services version 7.410. Again, I'll point to Colleen. She's integral in this kit, putting this out. A new JDC version, et cetera. So I'll just go through briefly what's in some of these versions. So for 7.415, and by the way, we haven't even completed. We haven't reached code freeze yet. We're still actively fixing bugs. I just took some of the things that one of the engineers is working on. Is like, what are the fixes we have so far for this release? These are just some of them, and I've just highlighted some that are really, like I said, they're things that cause us to say, hey, we should put a release out. So an error when handling nested stored routines, that has been a problem for some customers, and then wrong results using dynamic optimizer. Anytime we have wrong results, that just goes up to like a P1. We've got to get it fixed out to customers. You can't be running the database and getting bad data back. So, and then for DVMS, this will be now about 1.5 years of development of the kernel work within RDB and Codicil DVMS that we're bringing out to market. And these, again, are some. This is another one where we haven't completed the release notes. We're still working on this release. But these are some of the same problems I already mentioned talking about RDB. Like, for example, not being able to recover, getting a recovery error, even when you have the correct journal specified. A lot of these problems are special. It's not like any time you try this, it's going to happen. It's specialized on particular what your customer's application is doing, et cetera. But when you find these problems that are urgent to be fixed, bug check on online bug checks when you're doing a backup, show statistics, problems, and bug checks, etc. So that all will be included. Okay, so SQL services. So this kit 7410, the last kit, in this instance, we already had a 7.4 version out, so that's not the main reason for putting this up. But the last version was put out in 2019. So we're moving, going forward with work we've done in the SQL services area. Again, we're talking about for Titanium and for Alphabet. So one of the things was this adding PCSI support for installation. Customer had reported a problem. It turns out they had a badly configured .NET environment, but we've made it easier for if those kind of environments, if that happens in the future, we'll be able to overcome that and just allow connections. Logging parallel backup connects, another thing. So, but the other things to note here is with this kit, we're deprecating some client kits because we have SQL services as client and server. And so some of these client kits that we have been supporting are now obsolete because the client vendor is not supporting that platform anymore. So we are deprecating those clients. So Linux 32 client, Windows 32 client, and an HPUX client. JDBC. So this one was really the primary driver because you remember I showed you that we shipped a JDBC version in May, and now we're coming out with one at the end of the year. This kit is built and being tested, but the main driver here was working with JDK 8, where customers were finding problems, and it turns out, oh, it's because they're using the later, what is VMS at this moment in time, the later JDK. So to correct those problems, we put out these V8 variants on certain jar files that you can install, and now you'll run properly with JDK 8, at least for every problem that's been reported to us found so far. And that's another case, this example of a problem corrected. This again is related. We only saw this once JDK 8 is being used, and it was with the multi-process server and using the prior 7.4.1 version. Problem had been found there, so now that's been corrected. Okay, replication option. This is definitely the case where we're putting out a version that just, it's a 7.4 version. So it's a rebuild with later compilers, and putting this out, it'll be 7.4, and we'll follow the 7.4 support timeline. Okay, so now let's talk about what everybody really cares about here. This is the x86. So, big question is, why aren't you already out in beta? I was here last November at the boot camp, and I was all excited. My big announcement was that we had approval to go to beta, that I was working with the beta program office, that I already had heard. We had been collecting requests from customers interested in x86. I'd already been compiling that list. I went through. I'm going to actually use some of those slides in this presentation. So that was November. The next month, our executive vice president, who had okayed all of this, retired. So now we got a new management change. And in January, and also more discussions in February, all of a sudden we started getting questions from new management about what are we doing on x86? Why are we putting this out? What's the business case? Who's going to use it? What's the liability if we put this out? This is a port to a new platform. You've used all these new compilers. What liability would we have if we put this out? A number of questions. So they didn't say no. We're not allowing this, but we were told to basically stop the process of going into beta in the short term, and basically we needed to work on some of these issues. So I'll show you, like this was the story. So this is this is a slide from November of last year. Our plan was to go to beta in 2 phases, with the first phase being RDB, Oracle DBMS, the unique trace JDBC. Second phase, SQL services and OCI services. That actually turns out to be, especially because of the OCI services part, a large project, because we need to port basically a lot of the classic Oracle 19C client onto OpenVMS. You may remember the classic Oracle port to VMS was canceled back in 2020. So we stopped all of this work. We were not doing client or the server any longer on VMS. But for our project, we need portions of that. There are portions of the OCI libraries. When I say OCI, in this case, it means the Oracle Call Interface, not what OCI has become now, that everybody understands. Anyway, so that's a larger project. That's why it was in phase 2. The client kits and then also replication option. So the new direction that basically slowed everything down was just finish everything before you attempt beta. But then also, we've got these business questions. So what we've done since then, this year, is we've been spending a lot of time. I've got dedicated people for the port of SQL services working on that client port, so that we can take pieces of what we need to support SQL services. And many of our customers that, I'd say most of our large customers are using RDB the server and SQL services as well. For many of them, this is integral anyway, that they need this on x86. So as I said, we're going to go back and get approval from our EVP. We want to have ourselves in the strongest position possible before we do that, because we don't want to come back and say, well, yeah, we've got these 10 customers that care, and we should do it for them. Obviously we need a stronger case than that. I'm just using 10 as a sample. That's not our data. So we've been reaching out to customers that have told us they're interested in x86 and asking them if they can give us their business case, more detail. Because before this, and to be honest, when we had the meeting back in January and February with our management, our senior management, I had a spreadsheet that we were able to show them, look, these are all the customers that say they're interested. That's it. They're interested. There's no detail. There's no description of what they're doing. This could have been one small application off into a corner. We wanted more information. So we've been asking customers to work on business case to tell us description of the application, the function, the importance of it within their organization. You often hear for RDB customers that it runs the core of their business. Well, this is an opportunity to explain that and talk about how important this is. When do they need to begin running on x86? When do they need to begin porting? Would they be interested in being a beta test? Would they plan when would they go to production? And what would be the impact to your organization if you didn't get this? If the answer is no, and now we don't have RDB on x86, what would you do? And obviously one of the things would be, oh, is this customer so now mad at Oracle they're just going to move off of Oracle totally and go to another vendor? And then what would the plans be going forward if they don't have x86? So this is things that we published, that we put forward in a newsletter that I sent out in August that went out to our entire customer base. That, when I say entire customer, went out to the customers that are on our mailing list, which is about, after you look at the ones that come back with hard bounces because people change their email or whatever, or they're retired or whatever, it's about 2,000 individual emails that this went out to. And that was detailed. This is the front of the newsletter, call to action. But, I realize that this didn't reach everybody. It's not like, oh, I sent the mail and these are the responses we get. We know we have not reached the entire customer base. So I've been working to reach more customers, and that's basically one of the main things I'm working on now is try to reach, especially some of the top marquee names that senior managers know all about, and get their feedback. So where are we now? And why don't I want to just go to have the meeting and get the yay or nay now? We heard from about 27 end customers that they have even an interest in going to x86. So our assumption going forward when we start the port is, of course, the entire customer base is going to go to x86 because the hardware platform is being obsoleted at the end of 2025. Well, at least from support. HP actually is writing contracts to keep supporting those systems. But any case, we've got 27. Of those 27, about 14 have given us business cases, or at least some statement beyond just we're interested. And so anyway, so we are working to strengthen that now. So that's my main, the number one reason I wanted to be here today was to talk to you about this. And especially, I know it's not just the end customers that we have sitting in the audience, which we do, but it's also the consultants that are working with other customers. And I've talked to a number of them just in the hallways just since this morning about customers they're working with that we have not heard from, but they know well that this is part of their plans. So I'm interested I'm going to be here through Friday. If you are a consultant, an ISV, and you know a customer said that x86 is in their interest, in their plans, I would like to be talking to you because I'm working on multiple fronts to reach out and build this case from beyond where we are now before we go and request this approval. So just to give you an idea, where are we on the port? This is the same slide about what's in the product family. So the first section here, what have we ported? When I say ported, this means we have kits. They're in various stages of would we ship these even as beta. But we have kits and we're testing for these first 5. So Rdb, Oracle Rdb, Trace, CDD, JDBC. What we're working on is, as I've already said, the SQL services, OCI services, replication option. That's not going to be a huge project. We just haven't picked that up yet. We'll get that ported as well. But then there's other parts of the product family that don't need to be ported because they're either Linux or Windows based. That's what you see on the right-hand side of the slide. So let me just give you a little bit of detail on the stability and where we are. Let's just pick the RDB server because that's obviously a dominant player. So we've got about 10,000 tests that we're running. About 9 of that, roughly 9,000 of them are running. So we're running about 92% of the tests that we have available within our test system. This again, I'm talking about the test system for RDB itself now, RDB server. And of the tests we're running, we've got about a 98% success rate. This is as of the last couple of days, we've seen a number of failures. I'm going to talk in a minute about some of the issues we're dealing with BSI on things that were serious problems with the versions of BSI. One of the latest ones, MB called mailbox full issue. One of the last test runs, a big percentage of the tests were failing were due to that one problem. And just to give you a roll forward, we do have a workaround now. So I think our test rate, failure success rate is going to go up. But then there's also tests that we haven't run yet because the components aren't there on x86, and that would include SQL services and replication options, et cetera. I shouldn't have JDBC on there because we already have JDBC. All right, so I just mentioned we beyond just the port, there's been a number of issues that we've been working closely with BSI to resolve. So just kind of highlighting these as issues that are, they're definitely affecting the rate at which we're able to progress on the ports. This one problem, the Delcom fatal error, when deleting some in-memory segments is something that we first started seeing back in October of 2023. We didn't actually get it resolved until May of 2025. And I'm not, that's with Oracle and VSI, a lot of back and forth work with us doing crash dumps and sending them information and then looking into that. We eventually found, I mean, this was a detailed problem. At one layer, there was like, oh, we could see a bad value in register 14. But the problem was found, fixed, and put into update 2. So that was, because this otherwise was, we were having fairly frequent system crashes. We would try runs, and it's like, oh, system crashed again, so we couldn't get our test runs. All right, so now we had that fixed. So now, of course, we installed update 2 everywhere in our development and test environment to get rid of this system crash problem. And then we started seeing another one that we hadn't seen before. Map fault exception. This happens. This has to do with our use of floating point in Rdb, and that's another one with a lot of back and forth with VSI. We had great support with VSI to get to the bottom of these problems, but we only started seeing it after we had upgraded to update 2, and we couldn't complete a test run without doing a forced crash on the system once we had a system that was subject to this problem, but this was happening fairly frequently. So that's been fixed. That's going to be in update 3. We heard from Daria that update 3 is coming. Of course, VSI has already given us a fix that we're running in our development environment, so we're not being subject to this on a nightly basis anymore. And the latest one is this mailbox full error. That's fairly recent. I was just checking mail today. There's been a bunch of flurry of mail going forth on this problem. We have a workaround for now. That's to turn off upon messages. So that's good. We can do that, but that's still being investigated and worked on. But it's an example of the next one. So, you know, obviously RDB is a good test engine for VMS. I don't know if other customers were reporting these same type of problems. You know, we continue to work closely with VSI to resolve these. So, okay, getting back to beta. Assuming we get an approval for beta, then you will be, and this again, these are some of the slides I used last November, you will be working with the beta program office because all of the distribution, everything will be going through them. And by the way, we're kind of on hold with the beta. The program has already been approved. Everything's there. They just need me to come back and give me the okay to move forward with that. To become a beta site, you will have to be either an end customer or a partner who we know are working with that is working with customers. I have a list of customers that they've already said that have told us they're interested. That's something I'll be handing over to the beta program office once we get approval. And then once the RDB beta on x86 is officially visible through the beta program office, anybody can go online and apply. So you can state your case, give your information, and apply to become a beta site. What then happens is they come to me, I say me, I mean our team to review. We know it's just like a real user or whatever, but there is a process to go through to get approved in beta. And that's what this is just a screenshot of a program that's already out there. The Oracle database umbrella beta program, and ours is an umbrella, which means that it's not just an umbrella, it's not just a approval go to beta for 7.4.2, which would be the version on x86. It'll be any subsequent version will be able to go to beta with that. It's an umbrella program. Okay, so what are we saying now for prerequisites? Well, things changed from last November because some of the changes I just told. So now we're saying that we want you to have at least update 3. But that may change. We heard also that update 4 is coming out. If we start finding more problems, it could be that, you know, by the time we go to beta, that it'll be update 4 that we say. Everything we're doing, our development environment is OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux KVM. That's the environment where the VMs are created. And so that is the environment that we will be supporting in beta and then supporting in production. So what we're telling customers is that you if you want to run RDB on x86, you need, whether on-prem or in the cloud, which you're about to hear from in a second, that you be using OEL KVM. And I know that I've already talked. Whenever I say that, people come and say, "But we really need to use VMware." And right now, all I can say is this is the supported environment. But I'd say the first hurdle is us just to get this approved. We'll deal with VMware after that. But there are, just wanted to point out, and I said this last year, there's pretty significant license reasons for using OEL KVM because it has a feature, hard partitioning feature, and Oracle will recognize that and say, for example, if you're running on a 16-core system and you've got 8 cores carved out for RDB and the RDB application, and you're using OEL KVM, Oracle will only charge you for those 8 cores because of the underlying hard partition. This next slide is an Oracle slide, not one that I wrote, that just talks about how that's enforced. The hard partitioning is recognized and can be used to lower your license costs. So that's pretty significant because if you did the same thing with VMware, they would count all 16 cores. And so your license costs would be quite higher in an environment like that. I just put in a link here for hard partitioning so you can read more about that with OEL KVM. Core factor when you go to x86 is 0.5. Right now it's 1 for Titanium. And now I'll talk about cloud, and we're going to go to the demo in a second. But let me just briefly just say that the reason we can do this in OCI, the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, is because it is using OEL KVM. So it's the same environment that we're developing and testing in. There are customers that actually we do have, at least to my knowledge, one customer that has been running in OCI for a number of years now, and it's an alpha customer running under simulation with Stromus. So there are customers where that'd be possible to go to OCI without even the x86 port, but obviously most of the mainstream effort would be to have the x86 version of RDB and VMS and run that in OCI. So we'll go to the demo in a second. Just so in my roadmap, I have what I've talked about. So I talked about the 7. I didn't put all the versions. It would get quite busy in this roadmap for the things I said we were working on in the immediate short term. So I've got 7.4.1.5 on Alpha and Titanium. And then I'm assuming if we get the approval for the beta, that we would be able to go to beta within the first half of 2026. And I think production by the end. But that would really depend on what we find in beta. What's testing? What's the experience of customers? Is it really production ready? That's one of the main reasons you want to go to beta, to get it into real world situations. And then it's the same with Portsmouth. So I will stop there and we'll go to the demo. I hope I didn't eat up all the time. No, we did okay.
I guess I'll take that.
Okay. Then you guys don't need that, right?
So after standing in front of that bright light, see why no one wants to sit in the front row. I'm blind. So we, as Kevin mentioned, we have they had put together sort of a kit for us to do some testing in order to reproduce problems so we could work together and make things work. We got approached a couple of weeks ago. We didn't have a lot of time to put this together to try to do a little demo for this. We got a couple of statements put together for a couple of little things. You want to bring up the first batch of stuff? Oh, you're starting on the second batch. You're doing the exciting stuff first.
I'm excited.
So some of this is just to show that VMS on the cloud is exactly the same as VMS anywhere else. So what we're doing here is we've got one window on the left that's connected to an Itanium machine. And we've got a window on the right that's actually hooked to VMS on OCI. The new version of OCI, which is the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. I get that mixed up all the time because OCI used to stand for something else. Even Kevin mentioned that. So all we're doing is we're able to pull data back and forth from and to Itanium to OCI. We want to, over on the left here is Itanium. So we're attaching to both machines, both a local machine and an OCI machine here on the left. That's the Itanium machine. And on the right is the OCI machine. And you can see it's the standard stuff that we're all used to seeing. We created a database, same syntax, nothing's exciting here. This is what everybody would want to see. Is it looks the same. I think it's the same code base. You don't want to do a tag. Yeah, you could do that. Don't know what you've done. You're already attached. So the next thing is you want to do a show database thing. So that attach statement actually attaches both of these. Got two different aliases. One is I64DB and the other one is OCIDB. And this is going to use RDB remote to move data back and forth. And this already works. We've got a show database on the left, and you can see the different aliases, one going to a personnel database and the other one going to the OCI database. We got the demo colon in the front that shows that we're moving over. What was the next thing on the cheat sheet? Show tables. Show tables actually shows them from both aliases. So we've got the front part is everyone's favorite personnel database. And then down below, going to the OCI DB, that's got a couple of tables in it. We've got jobs and just a basic OCI table, which is just a table with a couple of columns in it. So we do a show tables, show table on the OCI machine. And keep in mind that he's doing the typing on an Itanium. And we're looking over at the x86 machine. So that's pretty cool. We're able to move data back and forth. You can do a show tables from Itanium and we can see the OCI machine. Most of this, people have done all this stuff before, but the interesting part is that we're jumping. Not only are we jumping architectures, I think the Itanium machine's running on 7.3. Over on the right-hand side, it's 7.4, obviously, on x86. And you can see the tables over there. We've got this is the OCI table. It's got a couple of columns. So what we're doing here, we are going to populate one of the tables on the OCI side. And we're doing a simple select from the employees database. And we just inserted 100 rows into the OCI database. So simple stuff. If you've done any of this before, it looks exactly the same as it would otherwise. You wouldn't know that you were on an x86 or that you were in the cloud. Because not only is the one on the right in the cloud, but it's on x86. So, here on the left, we did our insert. We had 100 rows. We came in now. You can't do table crosses across multiple databases. That's an RDB restriction. But you can do things like creating temp tables. So what we're showing here on the left is we're going to create a temporary table We're gonna suck the rows over from OCI and insert them into our temp table. And then from there, we can do whatever you want. We can do table joins. Because it's both on the same side, we're not restricted anymore. RUP had that restriction. There used to be a product years ago, BBI or something, that used to be able to do those joins. Now we can just use something. So you can see here, up here we did an insert into the local temp table from the OCI database. Now we could show that we actually pulled data over. We got 100 rows. Same number of rows on the other side. And we do a commit. And the thing about a temp table, we do a commit, and then the temp table gets the lead. Not the table, but the data that's in. And I think we've got one more thing in here where we're actually doing a table join. Just enough to fill the screen. So here's another case where we're inserting into the jobs table on OCI, and we're selecting everything from the personnel database and stuffing it over into OCI. That's what this is up here. And then we're doing a temp table back on I-64, and we're going to pull that data back. This is just to see what's possible. So we pushed it over from Titanium to x86. We pulled it back over from x86 onto the Titanium again. And now we can do some of our cool joins that everyone's familiar with, where you join in multiple tables. And we've got our result. And that's all we had for that one. You skip the first part of it, but that's okay. The first part of it, we actually had a first section of this that all it did was create personnel. It lacked anything exciting. So over on the right-hand side, that is the OCI machine. He just did a show system. You can see it looks just like VMS does. It really is VMS. The same, you could do a show device D. I don't think we have any devices. I've got a couple of devices. It's VMS, but it's in the cloud. You wouldn't know the difference. Except for it's not by your feet anymore. It's down, I don't even know where this is.
Frankfurt, right?
Frankfurt? There you go.
Halfway across the world. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, considering how far away it is, that we just did a bunch of data manipulation back and forth, and it happened pretty quickly. And we didn't touch this machine at all. I think they threw it together. We didn't have hardly any time to work on it, and it's still running up there. So that's our big little demo. We weren't supposed to talk about any of this until a couple of weeks ago.
And
So
John,
we could have had a longer thing.
introduce yourself and your team. What company are you really working for?
Oh,
Is it Oracle?
Yeah, I got an Oracle shirt on, huh? My name's John Balog. I worked for Oracle for quite some time. I work for BSI now. We've got our professional services team that originally was going to be the one standing up here. They're the ones doing the typing and figured out all the hard stuff with SSH to actually make this work. So, and they're doing a lot of stuff. They've got some demos. You have a demo coming up right after this too, aren't you? Where they're doing a lot of stuff with cloud stuff, different kinds of clusters, I think, and different ways of configuring. So if you want to get more interested in the cloud stuff, you could just keep your seat, and they're going to go right into that as soon as we're done.